everyone. Good afternoon and welcome back. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast. My name is Michael Barth and this is Owner Stories. Owner Stories Day to Day. And Owner Stories, if you haven't been here before, Owner Stories is the episode where I chat to other Porsche owners around the world. We chat about their journey. We chat about their Porsche story. We chat about how they got the cars in their garage that they have today. We talk about the regrets along the way. We talk about favorite drives. We talk about mods. All those things are covered in Owner Stories, and this is number 71. So very, very shortly, I'm going to be joined by David. David is in Sydney. We do these by Zoom. I do these Owner Stories by Zoom, but David is in Sydney, Australia, where I am at the moment. So we're going to get David very, very shortly and start chatting. If you want to be on these Owner Stories, I do say this, if you do want to be the Owner Stories and you have reached out to me and I haven't got back to you or I've forgotten about you, please just reach out to me again through DM on Instagram. Sometimes I lose track. I do write down most names, but sometimes I do lose track. If you haven't contacted me before, please still contact me. I mean, there's a little bit of a wait, but I am still doing the recordings for Owner Stories. Anyway, enough of that. Let me get David through Zoom, and let's start talking about his PorscheCooled Owner Story. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Owner Stories, and welcome back to number 71 of the Owner Stories series, actually. We're getting very, very, we're doing a lot very, very quickly, it seems. I mean, it's been going for a while, but we have got through a lot. That didn't make any sense, but I'll keep going. Today, I want you to welcome David to the podcast. David's coming in from Sydney, Australia. David's got a good story. He's got a really nice 911. I think it's his first 911. Hi, David, and welcome to Owner Stories.
G'day, Michael. How you going?
I'm good, mate. I was just saying to David before we started recording, I think David sent me a message, I think it was in 2019, wasn't it? About 3 years ago or something, about you were on the search, on your quest for your first 911, and you had, the one you had in mind is actually the one you have today, right? You were looking for a turbo, weren't you?
I actually started off looking for a 997, maybe Carrera or 4S.
Oh, okay.
And then, ended up with the turbo, with a 996 turbo.
We'll definitely get into that, and it's a good one as well. It's a beautiful one. Before we start there, though, Dave, before we jump forward, let's go back to the very beginning. Everyone has like a memory of Porsche, or most people have a memory of Porsche, or most people have a car journey. When did you start first noticing Porsche? When was it the first time you sort of thinking, wow, that's something that I wouldn't mind having? Did you see many of them growing up in your neighborhood or anything like that? I mean, for me, I didn't see hardly any, right? I mean, I lived in the country and I saw nothing except Holdens and Fords. But how did it all start for you, and when did you start first noticing Porsches or 911s? It
was, I'd say in the early 90s, or very late 80s, early 90s. I remember getting a book for Christmas that Mum and Dad gave me, like World's Most Powerful Cars or something along them lines. Was full of Ferraris and all that sort of thing. And the very last page was the Porsche 911 on the back. And I thought, wow, that's pretty special. Like that's pretty cool. So, yeah, it took a long time to see one. Like, you just never seen them around where I lived at all. But yeah, always had the model cars and stuff like that, for sure.
So that book, do you still have that book?
Yeah, I actually found it about 2 weeks ago, and I just gave it to my daughter that would have been the same age, roughly, than when I got the book. So she's 6 years old, and I would have been 6 or 7 at the time.
Oh, that's great. So what is the Porsche? What is the Porsche, David, in that book? Which one is it?
That is a bronze 930 Carrera, I think that is. To be honest, I've probably never read it and just only
looked at the pictures.
Is
it a 930 turbo? Yeah, in that classic color, in that classic.
It could well be.
Yeah, in the classic brown. So
in that bronzy browny color. And a neighbour that lived a few doors down used to have a Volkswagen Beetle in their backyard, and I remember sitting in it as a kid and like pretend to drive it with my mate. And I remember when I got that book, I was like, man, that looks a bit like that Volkswagen, like that Beetle that we used to play in. And then later on, I remember seeing one down at my old man's workshop, like he was a panel beater.
Right.
And there was a, I think it was a 930 down there. I just remember Porsche written across the back. and then the 2 rubber bumper thingies like either side of the number plate. And he also had a kit car down there at the time. I think they used to call them a Piera or something like that. They were like a Porsche mock-up.
Right.
And when I seen that 930, I remember saying to Dad, like, is this a real one? Is this the real one, or is this a mock-up sort of thing? And he's like, nah, mate, that's the real one. Yeah. And I thought,
your dad,
wow, yeah, that was mad.
So that was pretty cool. So your dad did work on Porsches, did he, in his shop? He had a few come through?
It only would have been a few at that, like maybe two or three, I guess. I just used to go down there in school holidays and get in the way, I suppose.
So that's that's where you sort of started thinking. I mean, I guess that's where you've ended up today when we start talking about that with your detailing business, with that business. It's kind of all follows through though, doesn't it? If your dad worked in the automotive industry, he's a panel beater, you've got cars around you.
Yeah.
That's sort of what spurred it on, was it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Just kind of fell into it. Yep.
All right. So what about other cars, David? What about other cars along the way? I mean, you're growing up, you get your license in Australia, you get your license and you want to drive something. Was there anything memorable or anything that you sort of think back at today and think, man, I wish I still had that car?
Not really, because they were pretty much all shit boxes, mate. So, yeah, don't really miss any of them. But I actually rewind a bit from the time that I actually first seen a Porsche on the road. After that one down at the workshop,
right.
was in the mid-90s, and I was riding my push bike to school along the Hume Highway there, and I've actually still got the same bike. And I passed the Shell service station, and there was a black 930 turbo at the Bowser filling up. It was on pump 1. I still remember what pump it was. And this dude looked young, man, like in his early 20s. And I actually rode my bike into the servo, and I was like, man, that's a mad car, like cool car. And I just said, oh, like, what do you do for a living? And he said, I race road bikes. And I thought, oh, fair enough. Yeah, so, and he was actually a pretty famous Australian superbike rider.
Oh, okay.
That I found out later on. But I remember when he left, I said, mate, get into it, like give it a bootful. And, mate, you didn't have to tell this bloke twice. He was into this thing. And I remember leaving the servo and all the road grime and leaves and that just blowing up out the back of it, flicking up from the tyres. And I was just like, holy cow, man.
That would have been a sight to see as a kid, because you're not seeing many, are you? You know what I mean? And a 930 turbo as well.
Sorry, it would have been a 993, sorry. It was 993? In the mid-90s. Yeah, and this thing was brand new, mate. Like,
wow.
And the guy actually ended up writing it off because he was a bit of he was known as the wild child of Australian superbikes. He was a bit loose, this fella.
What's his name?
So he ended up... I don't like to say names and bits and pieces, you know what I mean, on the thing, but he was a wild child of Australian superbikes. So anyone that knows,
anyone can look it up.
That knows who it is. Yeah.
So that was the second. So you had the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say he ended up just getting another brand new one. It was nothing. Yeah, we'll have another one of them, and he ended up smashing that one up too. But it was repaired and sold, and I happened to be Googling it, and there was a result come up there on one of the Porsche pages recently, and someone actually mentioned, hey, I think I might have this certain guy's old Porsche. And I thought, if it's the one I'm thinking of, man, it might have had a bit of a hit there. But, yeah, the first one was toast.
Really? The first one's toast, and the second one was repaired, was it? So someone you came across someone that owns it now.
Yeah, just on Google search results there, it popped up the other day.
Wow!
And someone has mentioned, and I think I might own so-and-so's old Porsche. So, but
this is the thing. You never know what you've got, do you? You never know what the history is on a lot of the old air cools.
Anyway.
anything could have happened.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so you get the book, you see a couple of them around. You see this black 993 turbo, this 993. It sticks in your mind, and then you start working. Right? You said there's been not really any memorable sort of cars. There's been nothing that exciting. Nothing at all.
Look, my very first car was my dad's old work cute that he used to drive to work. We resprayed it and cleaned it all up and put my sign writing and everything on it. And then I went out working in that because, I left school at 16, so I started my business before I could even drive, Michael.
Oh, really?
So I was kind of working for a car yard up the road from my dad's workshop, and then kind of waiting on the ute to get painted and things like that. And so, I was able to kind of go around mobile then and service other car yards and things like that.
So tell the listeners what your business is. Let's just get into that because I want to ask you a question about that. So just tell the listeners what business you have in Sydney.
Yeah, just mobile detailing. I do cars and trucks and all sorts of things. Yeah, here, there and everywhere. Yeah.
So you left school at 16, David. That's pretty impressive. So you left school at 16. You don't have a license. You get the work truck, and then you just go out and you just start trying to get business, start to detailing cars. This is how many years ago? 20 odd years ago?
It just cut out a second there, Michael.
So when you left school at 16 and you started the detailing business, was that about 20 years ago? Over 20 years ago?
Yeah, that would have been 99, 2000, I guess. So I remember, I done my HSC in year 10, and I remember getting the results, and I fair dinkum I got the results. I ripped the thing straight, clean in half, and threw it in the bin. Said, I don't need that anyway. I'm working for myself. So, and I'm not doing the other 2 years, man. I'm out of here. So before we get into your Porsche, so when you started the business, though, because I'm interested with this, because the detailing thing is really big now, right? There seems to be a lot of detailers in Sydney. Everyone's, paint correction, ceramic coating, mobile or fixed, or, and everyone wants to do, even, listeners, a lot of listeners, everyone's starting to detail their car. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to learn to detail, to paint correct, to ceramic coat. But 20 years ago, there mustn't have been that many. There mustn't have been that many mobile detailers, right? You must have been almost like at the top of it. There was a few around, but it was a completely different game to what it is now. A lot of people do the paint correction and ceramic coatings now, which wasn't really a big thing back then. All the technology's changed, the tools and all the equipment you use, and it was kind of about how many you could get done a day, and you used to work on turnover more rather than getting a special car and spending all day just buffing it up sort of thing,
Yeah. So it's more about washing and quantity, really.
Back then it kind of was, you'd kind of get in and get them buffed up and polished up and move to the next job. And I guess it was a level of cars I was doing then too, It was a lot of car yard work and kind of lower end cars, I guess. So it's a bit of a different game to what it is today, I guess.
Okay, so you've got the detailing business. You would come across in the detailing business, you obviously washing some good cars, right? Eventually you get into detailing some nicer cars, some European cars, sports cars, etc. Is that when you start? When do you start thinking then? And I know it's only happened later in life for you, the same as it did with me. So when do you start thinking you want a 911? The time is right, and I want to get a Porsche or a 911. When does that start happening? Do you plan ahead and start putting the money aside, or you just decide one day I'm going to start searching now?
Something that I didn't think of for a very long time, maybe until 2018 sort of thing. In 2002, I used to detail for one car yard, and the owner of the yard had a brand new 996 Carrera, and another fella that worked for him there had a 964. I thought back then, wow, these are pretty cool. And I remember kind of comparing the two as I was cleaning them, and they were chalk and cheese. Maybe, my main thing, I was never really right into cars. I had a 180 SX turbo, an XR6 turbo, but they were all kind of 5, 6, 7, 8 grand cars. And I just buy them, clean them up, drive them for a bit and flip them before they ran out of rego, maybe make $1,500, something like that, you know what I mean? But I was more into road bikes.
Okay.
I probably had like 13 sports bikes, R1s, GSXRs, Kawasaki's and all that sort of thing. But again, around the same prices, you know, 5, 6, 7 grand that I used to spend because, I thought it was probably better to save for a house or something, you know, before I got too wild in the cars. I never seen the point of buying a brand new depreciating asset.
Yeah, true. So you're into riding, you're into bikes. I saw that on your Instagram. Actually, you still have a few, right? I saw them in your big garage. It looks like you've got a huge garage, actually, if that's your garage that's on your Instagram.
Yeah, we built a bit of a shed out the back there. Yeah, just
a bit of a shed. It's more than a shed, David. I wish I had a shed like that. I can tell you now. It's like everyone's dream. You know what I mean? To have something. You got
somewhere to park the lawnmower.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just tell the listeners what we're saying, actually, so they can look at your Instagram. So if you go to David's Instagram, it's at Roof996 Turbo, Roof996 Turbo or Rough996 Turbo on Instagram. Have a look and you'll see David's car when we're chatting and you'll see his tiny shed, as he calls it. So, all right, so you start searching. It's 2018, David, and you start searching. The listeners know what you have because it's in the title, but I'll get you to tell everyone what it is shortly. Do you start searching for a 996, or do you start thinking, okay, I want that 993 like I saw at the petrol station? What do you start searching for, and what are the sort of things you're looking for in the cars? Does it have to be manual? You know, does it have to be a particular color? What do you start searching for?
Yeah, I was looking for a 997, probably Carrera S. I was after, I remember, the grey or black in a manual. And then, I started looking, but I kind of probably read too much about the bore score and all that sort of thing. And I thought I wouldn't be comfortable with knowing that it could have a problem like that. So I decided that I'd go for the turbo. Which cost a bit more, but I just thought, I'd rather spend a bit more and have peace of mind that them couple of issues weren't going to pop up sort of thing and keep me awake at night. So
in 2018, I'm trying to think back of prices in 2018. You don't have to, I don't want you to divulge any prices, but I'm just trying to think back. You're looking for a 997 and, you know, understandably, you know, 997 has IMS. I mean, I've got a 997.1, as you know. If you get the 996 Turbo, for the listeners that don't know, or the Turbo or the GT3, they've got the Mezger engine, so they don't have those issues that are associated with the other 997.1s. So you're looking at quite a high. It's a big jump from a 997.1 Carrera to a Turbo, whether it be a 997 Turbo or a 996 Turbo. So it's a pretty big decision. But is that decision based on the fact that you know that it's a better engine and it's going to have more longevity, that it's going to last longer, it's going to be a better car overall? Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, because like a good 997, the prices were kind of up there anyway. So it was a big jump, but I was just kind of like, well, I've never spent like crazy money on a car before, you know, like I only ever driven work vans and work utes and Falcons and Commodores and a couple of things, you know, so like I was like, oh, well, if we're going to go in, let's go in hard, go balls to the wall, and we'll grab the turbo. So when you're buying this, your first Porsche, are you thinking this is a car that I'm going to keep for a long time? Does that factor into the price sort of thing, like spending a bit more money because you know you're going to hang on to it, or you're looking at something that you think might actually like retain its value? Yeah, I didn't know how long I was going to keep it for. You know, I didn't know if it's something that I'd have just a couple of years and then kind of move on, or keep for a long time. I really wasn't sure, but I didn't really plan to keep it for a long time or a short time. Yeah, your years go by that quick anyway. Like you could own a car for 5 years. By the time you blink, you know what I mean? Then it's 10 years. Yeah, true. So you're looking, right, you know, the listeners know I've spoken about this on other episodes in the podcast. There's not many 996 turbos or 997 turbos around in today's market, right? They're there, but they're expensive. How was it back in 2019 when you started looking? Were there many on offer? How did you find the car that you have today?
Yeah, there might have been half a dozen or a bit more, but then by the time you weed out the ones that are ridiculously high in price, the ones that are ridiculously low in price because they're a shit box or whatever, then minus the automatic ones, you're probably only left with 3 to choose from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a black one in Queensland that I was interested in, and then right at about that time that popped up, a property popped up in the state that I was kind of keeping an eye out for.
Right.
So I jumped on that instead. So I probably had to probably put the plans off for a few months until I built my kitty back up to start looking again for a turbo. But one did pop up on the Central Coast that was dirt cheap, and I was like, oh, I can actually swing that at this time. So I went and had a look at that, and yeah, man, it was cheap for a reason, you know, Michael. And I went into it thinking that, and like the brakes were rooted on this thing, like the calipers were rooted, and he mentioned something about the second gear.
Oh, okay.
Was it popping out or just like it was second gear was notchy? There was something wrong with second gear. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but I didn't even drive it. So I think it might have had paintwork on the side, on the right-hand side.
Right.
So I just remember looking in the door jamb and that, and I'm thinking, I think this thing is being painted on this quarter. And man, that's the first thing I look at, like, because you can, so what? You can buy something with a dodgy gearbox or whatever, and you can fix it. But you buy something with dodgy paint, mate. Once it's not original, it's not original.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anything to do with paintwork unless it's a bumper bar or whatever. But it's got to be original paint.
So you looked at that one. So is this when you found yours that you have now? Like you looked at this black one on the Central Coast. It was a bit dodgy. Was there any other ones that you went to look at before you found the one you've got today?
Oh, there was the black one in Queensland, but then like other priorities popped up. Yep. Then there was the silver one on the Central Coast. I inquired about a few online and whatnot, and then my one ended up popping up, you know, just as I was kind of thinking, man, this thing's never going to come along. They're all in Western Australia or Queensland or the other side of the world. And I stopped looking for maybe 3 days, you know, which felt like 3 weeks. Because, you know, when you're always just refreshing the page every night.
Thinking it's just going to appear. But was that
seen mine pop up.
Yeah. Was that a deciding factor though, David? Yeah. Was it a deciding factor for you that it had to be reasonably close to where you are in Sydney so you could, or in New South Wales so you could go and check it out yourself? Like a car in Western Australia was like not something you would consider?
Yeah, nah, because like there's no, I want to see it. Like I wouldn't trust someone else to look at it. I'd want to see it for myself, and I wouldn't want to fly to Western Australia and all that carry on.
just so the overseas listeners know, that's like a 5.5 hour flight from Sydney or something like that. So it's not close. Okay, so how do you find your car? Where does your car, your first 911, where does it appear? And tell the listeners what it was and the options that came with it.
Yeah, so it popped up online, and I was like, man, this is a good car, but the ad kind of let it down a bit. Like it had poor photos and things like that. So I went down and had a look at that. It was in Albury, I think it was. Yeah. So it was like only a couple of hours, few hours, however long it took me to get there. That wasn't too bad. But it's a Meridian Metallic 2001 996 turbo with a Metropole blue interior, with the roof wheels and roof wing.
So that's what it came with. And I just want to say to the listeners, if you don't know what Meridian Metallic is, go and look at David's Instagram now while you're listening to this. at Roof 996 Turbo. Have a look at it, because Meridian is one of those really special colors, isn't it, David? You know what I mean? Like, you would have come across different colors of cars when you're detailing them, but Meridian is one of those. It's almost got like it's hard to explain, isn't it? It's almost got like almost a rose tint. It's almost like a air-cooled color, not a rose tint, but it's got that sort of reddy sort of tinge through the silver, right?
Would you call it like a champagne-y kind of silver?
Because I was trying to think about this, like my car's Arctic Silver, right, which is just the boring Arctic Silver, which is probably more black in the base color, and then GT Silver, which everyone chases after, is like got brown. And then Polar Silver is a bit blue, the main sort of silvers. And yours is Meridian, it is a silver, right? It just has different colored undertones. It's a really unique, really rare color too. I don't think there's many around, is there?
No, I've only ever seen one for sale. There was an automatic one I was seeing for sale on car sales, but I've never seen another one like since then, like in Australia, that is. But it was actually, in the photo, was parked next to a Arctic Silver Boxster.
Okay.
I think it's Arctic Silver, I think, in the Boxster, hey?
Yeah.
When, like, on the photos when it was on car sales. And it said in the ad, like, Arctic Silver over black. And I was like, man, that doesn't look Arctic Silver. And I could see the Boxster in the background. I'm like, no way. So there was a few things that were, like I said, it wasn't a real good ad, and it had not real great photos and things like that. But yeah, when I dug into it, I was like, yeah, this is a bit of a find here. So
I was about to say that they are the finds, aren't they? Yeah, sorry, David, they are the finds, and I've had a few other owners talked about that, where the ad's been a little bit not so great, and then they've gone to see the car, and it's like, wow, this is the car. This is a great example. So who was the owner that was selling it? Had he owned that car for a long time? Was there any reason why the ad wasn't that great and the color wasn't the right description or anything?
You know what? He had it for, I think I've got it all written down in my folder, but
right.
He had it for a good few years, but it done no kilometres, Michael. Hey, he didn't put many kilometres on it at all. And, he had put, he just had like 7 or 8 grand worth of work done to it in the previous year. New clutch, flywheel, this, that, and the other. But yeah, it came with a box, like a shoe box, full of good documentation and info and receipts, mate. Like more than you could imagine. So I don't know. Like he was armed with everything there, but I'm not sure. Yeah, why he didn't.
What was the mileage, David? Sorry, what was the kilometres of the car? How much miles did it have?
I got that. It had 103,000 Ks on it, 103.
Okay, for a 2001. That's been driven, hasn't been overdriven, but it's been enjoyed. So,
yeah.
So it had the roof wheels on it, and it had the roof wing, right, when you bought it?
Yeah, that's right. And I was just looking here now. Yeah, he bought it in 2014. And then I bought it in August 2019.
Okay, so he owned it for 5 years. And he bought it
and he put just under 5,000 Ks on it.
Wow, nothing.
Yeah, and all this info, like that he had all these receipts and bits and pieces in this shoebox. Like I've taken all that out, sorted it all out, and put it in a folder. So now I know everything. Like I can see all the previous owners, the kilometres they had the car, just through fishing through the receipts and doing detective work when they bought tyres and the kilometres going off the receipt and the date, and I puzzled it all together, like CSI.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You got all the records. So when you went to look at the car though, so you go down to Albury, we jumped forward a step, but you go and look at the car in Albury, and when you first see it, you start checking the paintwork. Is that one of the first things you do? So you did all the checks yourself, or you got an actual PPI done?
No, I had a look over it all myself because it was at a decent price, and I could see it was a special car, and there was people fighting over it. So I kind of had to say, hey, listen, like I can be down there in a couple of days. Like finances are all sweet. I don't need a PPI if you've got good documentation and everything with the car, and just tried to get on well with him and kind of let him know I was serious to kind of push the other guys aside, if you know what I mean. I thought if I check it all out and listen to it, like listen to the engine, take it for a run, like go up and down the gears and do all your checks, if it all comes sweet and I don't smell any rats sort of thing, then I don't need a PPI. But had something that popped up like, oh, this doesn't seem right, this doesn't sound right, like if anything had popped up, I would have sent it for a PPI, you know.
But before you handed over the money, you go down to Albury, you look at the car, you look through all the documentation, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at all the records, you're making sure that certain things are done and the services are done. So when you decide to do the deal, you decide that I'm going to take this car. You tell the guy I'm going to take it. How long before you get the car? Do you drive it back home? Do you truck it back home? How do you get it back? I'm guessing you drive it.
I was there. I was there with my car trailer, man. She was straight on the car trailer, straight on the back of the old Holden Statesman. Let's go back to Sydney, man, with our first 911.
So, hang on, David. So not only do you have a little shed, you've also got a car trailer as well. You've got the perfect setup.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, all good. Yeah.
So you get the car, you go down and pick it up, you do the deal, you've got your first Porsche, you put it on the back of your trailer. When you take it back, you get it back home. Do you then get it inspected or do you get services done? What's the first thing you do? Do you take it for a drive? What do you decide to do once you've got it home in that? I mean, you've got all the records, you know it's pretty solid, but do you still go take it to a Porsche specialist or you take it to Porsche and get it once overed?
Yeah, definitely straight up to Porsche Centre, South Sydney.
Okay.
Not straight away, maybe after a month, after I'd finished doing what I wanted to do with it. I took it up there and just said, hey, this is a story. Here's all the paperwork, what's been done with it. It's been serviced at Porsche Centre Melbourne, everything, all the history sweet there. Said, go over it, let us know if it needs anything and just do what you got to do. Yeah, I just bought it. So, yeah.
So how did that go?
Yeah,
how was that bill of health once they looked over to Porsche Sydney?
Yeah, all good. It was just strut tops, you know, and bump stops and the bearings, which is typical on anything like 996, 997. They all do the same. They all wear out, don't they?
Yeah, so, I just had mine done.
Yeah. It was just making a bit of a noise there in the front end, and I think that is strut tops that I can hear kind of creaking, and I just said to them, hey, just check this out while you've got it, and they said, as soon as we went over the speed hump in the car park, we could hear it. So
okay, so you get it, you take it to Porsche Sydney, and then you get it back, you drive it. What about the first time you drove it and you felt like what you actually had? What was that feeling like? You know, you remember that 993 at the garage, you remember the book, and then you've got your own 911. You know, you've worked hard for the last 20 years. You know, you set up your own business, and now you've got a 911. It must have been a great feeling.
It was the night I got it back, Michael. I remember like when I loaded it up and paid for it and everything, and we got it on the trailer, and like I was speaking with the guy for a bit too long. I remember thinking, man, I want to get back. Like I don't want to be driving in the dark on the Hume Highway, and then Skippy the bush kangaroo jumps out in front of me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Takes out the front of the Holden and ends up with a Porsche. But I remember pulling in a servo on the way back and just to fuel up the car and get a drink. And the guy like behind the counter goes, mad, like is that yours, man? That's awesome. I was like, yeah, like I literally just got it. And then he tried to upsell me like a couple of Mars bars or something. He had 2 for $2 or whatever the deal was. And I'm like, yeah, I got you there, Michael.
Okay,
so mate. Yep,
yeah,
I've got you, mate.
You completely dropped out after the Mars bars.
Yeah, that I couldn't afford.
Because you just bought the 911.
That was it.
Is that what you said to him? I said, I can't buy anything, mate. I've got no money left. It's on the back of the truck. It's on the back of the trailer. Yeah,
he was like, bit too late. If asking on the way down, it might have been all right.
So, David, tell me about the other mods that were on your car, because you said it had the roof wheels. It's got the roof wing, right? But there's a few other things that it has on your Instagram. You've got it listed. tell the listeners about the other mods. Did you add those? The springs and the tune, were they added by you? Just tell the listeners what you have. What are the other things on your car?
Yeah, so it's all pretty much as I got it. Like it's got the H&R springs, the wheels, the wing was tuned by the previous owner. So yeah, I haven't touched it. Like after that, I just cleaned it like mad, and then painted the wheels and the bumper, and haven't touched it again.
So you had to paint the wheels because there was a bit of damage to them, a bit of curb damage, or you just changed the color? Yeah,
they were painted like a really bright, chromy kind of silver. It just looked wrong.
Right.
That was a bit of a mission. Like I got them sandblasted and painted by a customer of mine that does pretty good work, and he done the bumper bar just because it was stone chipped, and it was original paint on the bumper, and it was stone chipped, and I wasn't happy with it. So yeah, he painted the bar and the wheels for me, and the car was in pieces, not in pieces, but like I'd pulled it all apart, cleaning it for the first month or so anyway. So he took a little bit of time getting to paint the stuff and get it all back, but like I didn't care, man. I'd waited 20 years for the car, and if it took 2 months to clean it and get it right, that's what it takes. So
what did you 2 months to clean it? So what did you concentrate on then? Because like you're used to doing clients' cars. This is your own car, right? So you want to do it even to more detail, right? So what do you mean take everything off? So you take the wheels off, you clean all the wheel arches. Did you have to replace any parts or plastic parts, or everything was okay?
Yeah, so I took the lights out, bumpers off, all the plastic panels off underneath, tail lights out, whatever I could see could be removed easy enough.
Yeah.
Just pulled everything out, all the plastic liners under the wheel arches, and that sort of thing, just to get in and give it like a good clean. I didn't want a speck of dirt under it or in it or whatnot. So yeah, I just had it in the shed up on stands, doing all that. And I've got a car hoist too. So after I'd done what I could in the shed, I drove it and put it on the hoist on the car hoist and lifted it up and gave underneath a better hit because I could stand under it, instead of rolling around on the floor in the shed. So
how was it, David? Was it pretty filthy under there when you started pulling it apart?
It wasn't filthy, but it hadn't been done before, you know what I mean? So after 20 years, you get a fair bit of road grime and, the leaves in the bumper, in the grills and all that, cleaned all that out. And, and then kind of assessed, all right, I need to get my wheels painted. I need to get the front bar painted. And I replaced made a bit of a list as I was going, just a couple of clips, maybe one of the wheel arch splash guard things, a couple of the little rubbers underneath, them ones that sit in front of the rear wheels, them little rubbers, just anything that was like, because some of them plastics and that, they do crack over time and stuff, so or go missing, like little rubber thing fall out or whatever. So just got it all nice and like how it should be.
The wheels look fantastic on your car. Those roof wheels on the turbo, I mean, they're just the right wheel for the 996 turbo, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of people comment on the wheels. Like when I first seen them, I was like, oh man, like what's he done with these wheels? What color has he painted them? It just looked like chrome bright, like it looked just tacky and cheap color that he painted them. So I'm like, man, that's the first thing to go. But all that stuff worked in my favor, because it kind of it didn't look real desirable as it was advertised, but I could see the forest through the trees, and I'm like, nah, man, this thing is going to come up wicked.
Because the color you've got the roof wheels now, that would be the factory color, right? That would be how that roof would sell them. It looks like, I mean, I didn't realize you even painted them.
Yeah.
They look, that's the actual color, right? You would have matched it up and made sure it was exactly like how they come from the factory, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, 100%.
So do you think in the back of your head you wouldn't mind a set of the original wheels though, the original turbo wheels?
Yeah, I would like. It would be nice to have, just because they're 18-inch. I think it would just ride a little bit nicer over some of the bumpy roads and whatnot. So it would be nice to have a set of factory wheels, turbo twist to go with it. Yeah, for sure.
What about the tune that's on it? It says on your Instagram it's got a 1-bar tune by Auto Art. Do you like that tune?
Yeah, so that was a shop in Melbourne, performance shop in Melbourne that done that. And yeah, I just wish it had like adjustable boost so I could just dial it down a bit, because I've only ever driven one other, like a bog stock Carrera, and I kind of liken that to a 600cc road bike where you can actually get up it, listen to the exhaust, listen to the motor, and you're not doing crazy speeds.
Yes.
And you get to hear it through the rev range, but like you run out of road pretty quick with the turbo. The horizon comes up pretty quick, and
it's pretty fast when it takes off.
And I liken that to more of like a 1,000cc road bike, because it's the same thing. Because that's all I used to ride, and that's what I wanted to replace. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't go on flying around the streets on these R1s and that for the rest of your life. Like it's not good.
Yeah.
So I was like, what car can replace this as well? So, and a lot of guys that ride road bikes have Porsches as well. So it's kind of like, if you couldn't have a road bike, you'd have a Porsche. So yeah, that's how I ended up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people. That's how you ended up with it. Yeah, and I think the bike thing, and I've said this to previous owners, you know what I mean? Maybe you've heard it on previous owner stories, but people have air-cooled Porsches, you know what I mean? Well, it's not just air-cooled Porsches. It's like it's that feeling of, I mean, I've only ever driven a 250cc. I've got a bike license, but I only have I had a 250cc and I learned, and then I didn't buy another one, right? So, but I just remember that feeling on the bike, when you're looking ahead and you're going through the corners, and it kind of feels sometimes when you're in a Porsche because the engine's at the back and it's just that, that movement, it's a very similar, I don't know, I kind of feel that it's a similar sort of movement when you're in a rear-engined 911 as it is when you're on a motorcycle. Do you disagree?
Yeah, it's very similar.
Similar, right?
Yeah, 100%, And it was probably like 2 weekends ago I took my bike out for the first time in years. Like sometimes I just run it into town, put a bit of fuel in it and come home. But like I actually went on a ride that I'd been taking the Porsche on. Yeah. And man, after not riding for a few years, I'd definitely be quicker in the Porsche than on the bike for sure. But having that much more grip now too in the Porsche, like you can, how much contact patch do you have on a road bike? Not much. You run over an ant and you might be on your back sliding along the ground, and I've been there half a dozen times, and it's not real fun. So it's pretty cool when you can jump in a car and the tires feel like they're 2 foot wide on the back. Like you got a lot more confidence, and it's a lot safer, man.
Yeah, much safer. What about the sound though? Because you've ridden bikes, road bikes. You've got that sound when you're on a bike, all right? What about the sound of the turbo? Does your car have an aftermarket exhaust, or does it have a stock exhaust? How's the sound of your turbo? Yeah,
it's only got a stock exhaust, and it is fairly quiet. It's not real loud, but I kind of like that you can. I don't want to attract attention and from the noise and things like that. You know what I mean? I like to fly under the radar a little bit. So I noticed like when I go up Macquarie Pass and that, where I used to ride a lot too, and you've got the big rock walls beside you, and you give it a hit, and you can hear the engine and the turbos and everything working. Like it sounds mad.
Yeah, the spooling, the turbos on the 996 is crazy, isn't it? I know with Marco's car when I was following him the other week, and you can hear it, when it starts to spool up. I think he's got an aftermarket exhaust. He's got a 996.2 turbo, but it's the turbo has a great sound. It's such a unique sound that spooling up that sound, isn't it? It's just it must be great inside the cabin.
Yeah, it sounds wicked. Yeah, I'm real happy with it, and comparing the Carrera to the Turbo 2, like I was saying with the power, how you can actually get up the Carrera and like naturally aspirated engine, and you get to hear it and experience that, which is cool. But I noticed on the Turbo 2, like, you don't have to really use much of the rev range at all. Like, I drive it smooth and kind of quickly, but like I don't have to rev it. You don't need to call on all that power, so you get in a nice momentum and you're only using a couple of thousand RPM and then changing gear and
Yeah, true. So what's this image on your Instagram where I see you've got the detailer, you've got the paint correction going on Home Built by Jeff's orange Harry, isn't it? Is that what he calls it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he just after he had painted it, it's been painted a fair while, I think. But yeah, he was trying to buff it up and whatnot, and just needed a couple of pointers and a couple of tips. So I spent the day down there with him, and we gave it another sand, just wet rubbed it, sanded it back. I just showed him a couple of tricks with the wet sanding and that sort of thing, and then help him buff a few panels up and help him to spruce it up a bit, just to get him going. Like he was doing a good job. He just needed a couple of little pointers that would make it a lot easier for him.
It's a nice looking 911, isn't it? You've done a good job on that. He's very very handy. I watch his videos all the time. He's very handy, that's for sure. Puts a lot of us to shame.
It's unreal.
It's making everything.
Yeah.
Hey, what about when you're detailing that though, David? Say you're detailing, Jeff's orange, 911, or you're detailing a newer 911. A car that's had, there's a lot of listeners that they want to detail their car, but if you're detailing, say, a freshly painted, old 911 compared to say an original painted 911, or even like a 997 or a 991, is there a lot of difference between what you have to watch out for when you're doing that in your technique? Generally,
anything that's been painted that has been resprayed, the paint is a lot thicker. But depends how it's been put on too. Some guys will get them pretty good straight off the gun, and you won't have to buff them up too much. And then, maybe some paint jobs, they'll have a lot of contamination in them from dirt and dust flying around the paint booth. So you've got a lot of work there, Michael, chopping and sanding and carrying on. And again, if you don't know who's painted it, if he's gone a bit thin near some of the edges of the doors, and so you've got to kind of steer clear of the door edges and some certain curves and things like that, because there's a chance that you could just sand through or buff through on an edge if he hasn't put enough paint on there and that sort of thing. That's why I don't like messing around with that sort of thing. If I don't know who's painted it and whatnot, there is a local guy that builds Ford Escorts, and I buff all his cars after he's painted them. But I get on really good with him. Right. And I know how he paints them, and we work it out between us, and it's all good. But just to get a car painted from some random guy from wherever, and it could have been 2 years ago or 5 years ago, because the guy doesn't know, he just bought the car, and you kind of walk him in a bit.
Because I watch these videos on YouTube, where people buy a new Porsche, and I guess it's probably MONYC or whatever, or one of those detailing channels on YouTube, right? But people buy a new Porsche and they have to get it detailed, like the imperfections on the paint straight from the factory. Are the newer Porsches, newer cars, are they easier to deal with, you think, from going back 20 years in the business? Do you find the newer paints easier or harder to deal with?
It could be it depends. Like, you could get a brand new car and it needs minimal work, like just a light machine polish, and it can get rid of some fine swells and scratches and sort of thing, But then, you get others, and maybe it's been sat in the car yard for the past 4 months. It's a brand new car, but it's been sat there 4 months, and the yard hand, the car wash guy's had kind of minimal training and just doing the best with what he's got. Probably doesn't realise that he's doing more damage than good because he's using a wrong sponge, or he's dropped it on the floor and he didn't really care or whatever. So you can get a brand new car that is trashed, like the paintwork's thrashed, and you do have to buff it fairly hard. But
right. There's something I saw on your Instagram, actually, I want to ask you about, because I saw that you've got is that your car bubble? Is that what you call it? That inflatable car packaging?
Yeah.
What is that? Is that worthwhile?
Carcoon,
is
bubble,
it?
Yeah.
What are they all about? I mean, are they worthwhile or not?
Yeah, they're good. Well, I'm worried about the mice in the shed, because basically the shed's in the middle of the bush, and I always keep the roller door down and things like that, though. So you can get, if mice go in, you know what they can do to wiring harnesses and things like that. So that's good for that. And also the dirt and the dust, even though I sweep the shed out and it's all nice and clean, you'd be surprised how much dirt and dust will just float on a car from it being sat there, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't like car covers, because I don't like anything touching the paintwork. So there's that sort of thing, you know, and if the kids are kind of riding their bikes around and they're doing laps of the shed and, you know, then you end up with a handlebar in your quarter panel, that'll be fun. So, I like to have it in there, and so it's just protected. You can't scratch it.
I think it makes sense, but that makes sense though if you have. I didn't even think about that, because you know, I'll just tell the listeners, you live in Sydney, but you live in it's more open land. There's a lot of more space, right? Because you're sort of slightly outside of the city. But that's always a problem with, you know, in other countries as well, with the rats and stuff, and people finding, you know, rat's nests and everything, and they chew your wires and everything. So it kind of makes sense to have that, doesn't it? If you're in a country or rural area, to actually have the carcoon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and just I'm not, you know how so many silly scratches can happen, Michael, because, you know, someone hung their broom in the shed and then they bumped the broom and then it fell off and hit the car. Seriously, if that car got damaged like that, and you know, and if I had to do paint work or whatever, I'd sell it and buy a new one. I'm not interested in having things painted, mate. Yeah, mate,
really?
Get out of here.
Why? You think that it's
got to be original paint?
So
yeah, man.
But apart from the bars, right? Apart from the front bumper and the rear bumper, that's okay. The bumpers are okay, right? You're not against bumpers because you've had yours done. It's just any part of the body.
Bumpers. No. That's what they call them. Nah. Yeah, like the doors and the quarters and that, because, you know, you end up to do the quarter, we got to blend the door, or we got to blend the door and the guard now, so we got to paint the whole side, and you know, then you can just always tell, man. It never matches up the same, and you can just always tell it's been painted, and that's all I'd ever look at, you know.
Even with the really good guys in Sydney, even with I'm not going to mention any names, but even with the really good places in Sydney that do a lot of the prestige cars, you still think you could see it. If you were going to detail a car, you can always tell if it's been blended, if it's been painted.
It depends what colour it is, Michael. Like solid colours, you can match them and get them good, you know. But yeah, some of these metallics and pearls and stuff like that, I don't know. And I just know, even if they'd done a mad job on it and it was like, man, he's done a top job and I can't pick it, I know it's been painted.
Yeah.
You know, and then, I don't like not original paint.
So what else is planned? Are you going to add anything to your turbo? Is there anything you've seen online or anything you've come across, any mods that you think, well, maybe I might want to add that? Or is it pretty much perfect how it is?
No, I think I'm stoked to have it, and I just appreciate the car so much, and that I've got it. It's like, man, I've got my slice of cake. I don't need more, man. I'm wrapped with it. I'm happy. I'm grateful that I've got that. So it's as it is me.
Perfect. But you must be happy that you decided on the turbo, right? I mean, I know you said you wanted the Carrera, but now you've got the turbo. You must be happy you went that direction, yeah?
Yeah. Look, I'd still have a 997 GT3 or something like that. But but yeah, I am real happy with the turbo. But yeah, I'd have an NA. I'd have a 997 GT3, and I had the chance to have one, Michael. There was there's one that I'd been cleaning since 2014.
Right.
White 997 GT3. Man, the thing is like 3 streets away from me. 3 minutes, I'd be there.
Right.
And he was, I'm going to sell it, put it on the market, and I'm going to get this. And I wasn't seriously looking at the time that he was selling that. But, man, the price of the car, the price I could have got that car for, Michael, would make you sick, mate. Like,
Really? When was it for sale? How long ago was it?
When was that? So
2020?
Nah, maybe 17, something
17.
like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you see the prices they're tipping now. You see the prices of the 997 GT3s are tipping 300.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks for the reminder. But, yeah, he was like, I paid X amount for it, man. I've had my fun. I'm happy to get X amount back. So, yeah, and I'm going to put that towards a 991. But, yeah, it would have been around 2017 because in September 2017, I'd done the first 996 turbo I detailed for a fella that lives around the corner from Home Built by Jeff.
Okay.
And I detailed that thing and cleaned it up for him. And he said, I'll take you for a spin. So I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Because it was when I was doing that car too, I was like, man, you know what? I could probably go one of these. This is pretty cool,
Yeah.
And he took me for a run in that. And that thing's had the tits tuned off it.
Right.
So, man, yeah, and he can drive. Like, yeah, he's done racing and circuit racing and whatnot before. And he took me for a run down Old South Road, I think it was,
right.
In Bowral. And I'd been along there on my road bike, and I know what pace I can do on my bike, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a pretty spirited drive in that thing that afternoon, and I was like, yeah, you would have blown the mirrors off my GSX-R1000 coming down here. I know that much.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That still could be a car on the horizon, though, a GT3, 996 or 997.
Yeah, anything's possible, yeah.
I mean, the 996s are going to be crazy too, haven't they? I mean, I remember it was just a blink of an eye, they were only 150, and now they're 250. 260, 270.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, definitely that turbo, that was one that really made me think, But there was also a blue 997 that I'd done in Sydney. I don't usually travel outside my area, but a guy rang up and he sounded cool and he had a 997. He wanted to get cleaned up. So I was like, yeah, I don't mind driving extra, to go up there to do that. And it was in an underground car park. Yep. There was no phone service. He just left me alone to do my thing for the day, man. And that car, when I done that car, I remember, man, I made love to that car when I was cleaning it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what made me think, like, man, I definitely got to look into these, because I was always looking at muscle cars and, Monaros and things like that.
Yeah.
But after that blue one, I was like, man, this is a sexy car, and I like these things. And
it's just got the 996 turbo, though, doesn't it, David? Just the detail of it, the air ducts on the side, the back bumper, the exhaust tips, everything about it is just. There's just so many nice features, you know what I mean? And that photo that you've just posted on Instagram, just the last photo you posted, the first one on the farm in the green, that image.
Yep.
It's such a great photo.
Yeah.
That angle and your car. I mean, anyone that's looking for, anyone that lives in Sydney or whatever is looking for a detailer and they're looking at your Instagram, you can see how well detailed your car is. You know what I mean? It's just, and the shot in your shed with the bike, with your Suzuki bike there, and your paint is just beautiful. The depth in your paint is just amazing. It's really, really cool. Good job.
It come up nice, and there might be a couple of little things in that paintwork that I could buff a bit harder and go a bit harder on that. But when it comes to like this car's 20 years old, it's original paintwork. Like I can live with a couple of defects for the sacrifice of keeping my paint thickness.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could go harder on it and get it even better, but I want to keep my paint thickness there, you know?
Okay.
And when I say, man, you're going up to it with a microscope. You know what I mean, Michael, looking at it. So there's getting them nice and getting them look good. Then there's just being silly, like, all right, man, relax. You're going too far. Like, you know.
Yeah, so it's is it like David? Sorry, David, for interrupting. It's like what 75%, 80% instead of going 99%. Is it? Is that what you do with the paint correcting? Is that what you're sort of thinking about when you're doing it?
Yeah. So you get them really good, like 90%, 85, 90%. You know, you can go harder, but you know, to get that last 10%, you know,
it's not worth it.
Fair enough. If it's something different, like something that's been resprayed, like for Matt that I do the escorts for, and he's like, hey, Dave, this guy's real fussy, man, just go mad on it. And, you know, if you go through a guard or if something happens, don't worry, bring it back, we'll paint it up. I mustn't have put enough paint in that area or on that curve or whatever. Yeah. No worries, man. Then I know, okay, sweet, we're good to go. Let's go hard, man. So, yeah. So when it comes to...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, when it comes to kind of preserving your original paint that, you know, that you don't want to respray again, man, don't go crazy. Get it looking mad, get it looking good, but, yeah, don't go silly, you know.
So was it a difficult...
I believe in
before we get into your favourite drives, but was it a difficult job, the paint correction on your 996? Was the paint in a bad way? Was it a difficult job, or was it you just wanted to take time because it's your car? You want to take a little bit extra time?
It was fairly swelled up, yeah. Like it hadn't been done in years, man. Like that thing, it hadn't been paint corrected or whatever in years by the look of it. You know, maybe the guy had been washing it with a dirty sponge or washing it too much or whatever. But it definitely needed a good go over, yeah, for sure.
Did you take a before and after shot?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I do have photos of it, how it was and whatnot. But yeah.
So maintenance wise now, because I know the listeners are interested in this. Maintenance wise now with your car, what is your routine when you go to wash it now? Do you foam it? Do you wash it? How do you do it? Do you do 2-bucket? How do you? What is your basic routine now? You got your car in the carcoon, in the bubble, and you take it out and you want to give it a wash. What is your routine just for your car?
Well, when I pull it out of the bubble, like it doesn't need anything done because I've usually done it before it goes back in there, and I sweep the floor and wipe the floor of the bubble out and put it back, so it can be parked there for 3 months, and I can pull it out tomorrow and it's like mint, like it doesn't have a speck on it. Wow. Which is good. But like say like right now, I took that out yesterday, literally just into town and back. I took my girls for a bit of a spin, and I've parked it back in the garage. I parked it back in the shed, and I'm not sure if I shut the roller door last night. You know, I haven't mowed the grass or anything, but, you know, there might just be a bit of dirt over the top of it. I'll probably just foam it up and then gurney it down. It probably won't even need to be like hand washed sort of thing. But if that has any kind of road grime on it, or say, you know, it had a bit of a light sprinkle of rain when I was driving and keeping in mind I've only gone down the street, like I definitely do the 2-bucket wash after foaming it up. And then I've got a couple of different mixes of foam. So I've got one that's a little bit stronger and then one that's a little bit more gentle. So I'll use a stronger one down the bottom half of the car, like from your knees down is where you pick up all the road grime and all the dirt and the muck. I might even give that a pre-spray with like a multi-purpose cleaner or an all-purpose cleaner first at the bottom of the side skirts and, you know, the front of the bumper bar to soak the bugs a bit before I foam it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Does your 911...
So the idea of the foam...
Yep, sorry, go ahead.
The idea of the foam is just to get it as clean as you can without physically touching the car, I believe, first. So you're getting as much contaminants and dirt off without wiping them off, sort of thing. So then when you do go to wash it, like your car's 50% cleaner at least,
Has your car, are you a fan of ceramic coat? Does your car have ceramic coat? Are you a fan of paint protection film and those sort of things? What do you think of those two things before we get to the end?
Yeah, they're good for the right application. Like, say my Holden, like, it's not coated because it's got no clear coat on the paintwork. It's just solid straight white, and I just go over it with a bit of a sealant after I've spray sealant after I've washed it, sort of thing. Like, I could ceramic coat it, but it won't bond properly to the surface. It won't hold.
Okay.
And some blokes, I guess, might tell you, hey, different, because they might want to do the job, sort of thing, and get the money more than do the right thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did coat the Porsche. I can't remember what I used on it now, because I've got a couple of different coatings. I think at first I just put like a semi-permanent coating over the top, like nothing flash, and then I wasn't happy with how slick it was, and I might have done that just because, but then I went over it with something a bit better. But yeah, it's good for the right application, and like, I know yourself, I don't think you're a big fan of ceramic coatings, but then is that right?
Not that I'm not a fan, it's just the process to get there, isn't it? It's all the work that you have to do and the cost involved to get there. I mean, I don't really want to do it myself, but to get the ceramic coat, you've got to do the paint, you've got to do the correction, you've got to, and then once you've got the ceramic coat on, you've got to be more careful with what you wash it with, right?
Yeah, and how you wash it and things like that, yeah. And like, if you scratch your door, then, well, we've got to buff your door up and then recoat the door again, because you buff through the coating.
Right.
I kind of say to people, like, I go, hey, like, do you enjoy washing your car? Like, Sunday arvo, now 4:00, beautiful blue sky. Do you want to crack a beer open and you don't mind washing your car and drying it off and running a bit of wax over it? Like,
I enjoy that. Yeah.
It can be relaxing, and like, you're kind of thinking of nothing and you're just like admiring your car, and if you're happy to do that, then just keep doing that, man. Save you $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever, however much your coating's gonna be, and put that in your pocket and just keep waxing your car. That's fine. That's sweet. It lives inside. It lives indoors.
But the wax doesn't give you the same protection as the ceramic coat, right? It's not as...
No, it's not as durable. No, so it'll break down, diminish, and wash away in no time, sort of thing. It's definitely not as durable.
Yeah.
But if you're happy to apply it, if you like I said, if you don't mind applying it and maybe even nearly enjoy doing it, then just keep doing that. That's fine.
I mean, you probably heard, I don't know whether you heard on the other episodes of the podcast, I mean, Steve, did his GT3. He did his 997 GT3. He did the paint correction on it, and he did the ceramic coat. And he also did his wife's Macan Turbo S. It took him a while to do it, but, he said it was reasonably easy to do. But I think what I'm more concerned about is when you do this ceramic coat, David, is that when you have to wash your car, the washing process seems to take longer. For most people, when they wash their car after it's got a ceramic coat, it seems to take longer than just doing your two bucket wash method. You know what I mean? You've got to take more care. Is that correct?
Yeah, you probably want to take a little bit more time and be a bit more careful and that sort of thing, and do all the correct processes. It's going to take a kind of fine swirls or scratches back into that coating, because you've just dropped a heap of money on it, and it's a bit of a pain in the neck and a pain in the pocket if you've got to rectify things then, know. But if you've just been hitting the car with a spray sealant or a wax, and you scratch the guard or whatever, then yeah, no worries. We'll run a buffer at 5 minutes and it's fixed again. You keep waxing, keep going, and it's cost you it's cost you nothing to do.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, there's good points to it, and there's kind of bad points to it, and it just kind of works out. Yeah, that's what I just say to people, mate. If you're happy to wax your car and happy to, you don't mind spending the time, and it's always garage, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. David, we're about to finish. We're almost at the end. Before we leave, we always like to talk about favourite drives. You sort of mentioned a couple of roads already, but favourite drives, if anyone's coming to Sydney or outside of Sydney and they want to take their 911 or they want to get a sports car or they want to go for a really spirited drive on a good road, where would you go around where you live, or even further away is okay, or great roads you've taken your bike on that you want to take your 911?
A good local run is up to Bargarang Valley at Natai. So yeah, onto Bargarang Road, and just don't turn, just keep going straight until you hit the water. Basically, you know what I mean, until you're up the top of the lookout there, and once you're there, you're looking out over Lake Bargarang, which flows down to Warragamba Dam.
Okay.
And it's a nice twisty road up there. Yep. Yeah, that's a good run up there. And like, I've always liked Kangaroo Valley and that sort of thing down.
Yeah, I like Kangaroo Valley,
Michael. Kangaroo Valley. The Robertson.
Robertson. Yeah. Yeah, the road that goes up the back of Bowral there, right? Is that Kangaroo Valley, that sort of winding where you're winding up the road and going up the mountain a little bit? Is that Kangaroo Valley? I can never remember when you go down through the Royal National Park and you keep going and then you come back in, cut back in and go back up to Bowral. I always thought that was a good road. I don't know what the name of it is.
You've got Macquarie Pass going up to the pie shop.
Maybe that's it.
But then you can, at the top of Macquarie Pass, before you hit this pie shop, you can turn right. And I think, isn't that Old South Road? And then that connects to the back of Bowral there. So I'm pretty sure that's where we went in Nathan's Turbo when he
okay. That's a good road.
That
that's a good road. Yeah, that would have been fun. That would have been really good fun. But have you taken your turbo? Have you taken your turbo to the max on that road yet? Not yet.
On Old South Road, it's a pretty rough road, man, there in some places. But yeah, I've given it I've stretched its legs good and proper once, and it goes every bit as good as a GSX-R 1000.
That's good.
But yeah, you got no wind noise, and you can sit there and do it with the aircon going.
Yeah. Hey, one thing we didn't mention, the interior of your car, Metropole, is that like a really dark blue or deep blue? It's blue, right?
That's another thing in the ad, man. That was advertised as Arctic Silver over black interior. And then I seen the interior and I'm like, yeah, dude, that's not black. Because I literally, I'm looking at the build sheet here, Michael. It's got every option that's listed and the original price, and everything, what the original owner paid for everything.
Sorry, David, have you got the full original price of what the car costs, the original owner?
Yeah, man. So just quickly, it landed in Australia on the 13th to the 12th, 00. Its build date was the 10th of November, 00. So it came, 2 months after it was built.
Yeah.
Landed in Brisbane, I think it was. And then options, we've got Metropole blue leather, carbon interior pack, E77 carbon interior pack. That was 4,200.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it now in your picture.
Paint, leather console, 2,400. 3-spoke carbon. What's 3-spoke carbon?
Carbon wheel. Carbon steering wheel. Have you got a carbon steering wheel?
Oh, yeah, that's what that'd be.
Oh, you do?
2,300. Stainless steel seal. Carbon gear lever, $1,800 for a car.
This is what I mean. It's well optioned, isn't it? They really did they went to town on the options list.
Used to pay $1,800 for cars, Michael.
Now you're paying it for a gear knob.
GSM telephone, electric sliding roof, and the soft look leather
Okay, yeah,
which
that's
is
nice.
that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've noticed it's the ruffled leather. Do they call that supple, Michael? Is that supple? Is that what
I
they
don't
call
know.
it when it's like ruffled
Yeah, I think so.
instead of the perforated?
Yeah. I like that leather in the turbo, though. I like that ruffled leather, whatever it is, that soft leather they call it. I like it. Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. I do like that. Yeah. And yeah,
It definitely looks expensive when you see it in real life.
the invoice total there back in 2000 for everything
Yes.
with all them options was 331,920. So
that's a lot. That's a big purchase in 2000. That's Australian dollars. For all the international listeners that are listening, that's about 160,000 pounds, or it's about 220,000 US dollars. So that's a big purchase, that one. You've got a good one, David, that's for sure.
That is nuts.
Yeah, you've got a good one.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm wrapped with that, man. And like I said, the first night I got it and then parked it up in the shed and turned back to look at it, and it's parked dead set in the center of the shed with the roller door up.
Yep.
All the lights were off except the lights in the shed. And, man, I just seen that thing and I was like, holy shit, man, after 20 years, all the bullshit I've been through and that thing is mine now. It made it, like, worth it, man. It was
hard work, mate.
pretty
Hard
emotional.
work. Well done. Well done. Yeah, it is.
I went back to the house, and said to my wife, hey, come and have a look. We just bought a Porsche.
So does your wife like it? Does your wife like it?
Yeah.
Does she drive stick?
Yep.
Does she drive manual?
Yeah, yep.
Do you let her drive it?
Yep. She hasn't driven it yet, but like when I take my mates for a run and that, like I always give them a go. Like I pull over, and I'll say, righto, jump in, man, have a go. And they're like, no, I don't want to drive it. Just jump in, grab it by the balls and drive it. You know what I mean? It's there to enjoy.
It is, David. But the thing is, don't you think before you have a 911, right? Before you have a Porsche or a 911, it's a bit scary to drive one, don't you think? Like it's always a bit, and you can see when your mates say that, it's like, do you want to drive? It's like, oh, is it? But it's so easy to drive. A 911 is you get used to it, but it's pretty easy to drive. What do all your bike mates think about it, though? I meant to ask you that before. Your mates that don't have Porsches or 911s and they just have road bikes and what do they think of the 911?
Yeah, you kind of see the coloration, like, bike to, all right, I've got kids now, man, I can't keep flying around on these things. Let's get a bit of safety. Let's go as fast, but with a bit more safety, basically. You really need a 911. Put a price on safety, Michael, and if you got it, that's reasonable.
All right, David, we're at the end. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners before we go?
No, I think that's about it, man. No, I've been like, thanks for your help, Michael, with, when I started looking at 911s, and I asked you a couple of questions there, and I started watching your YouTube channel, because I went through all the videos. Like while I'm at work, I got my earpods in, and I was listening to all the YouTube videos. So that was definitely a help. I didn't find the owner stories until kind of later on, because I just got my car, then I stopped following all the Porsche stuff for a bit, and then I kind of got back into it. That's when I found the owner stories.
Right.
My mate Nathan in Bowral there helped us out a lot. Like he started off as a customer, and took me for a spin in this thing, and now we're good mates, and I've probably bothered him with 100 text messages about buying one and all questions and stuff. So, yeah, and he was a big help. And, yeah, he was the first to know about it when I got it. I sent him a video of it on the back of the car trailer there, and he was like, holy shit. Then the phone blew up. He gave us a call. But, it's that was a big help, yeah.
Fantastic. You've done well, David, that's for sure. I'm glad I could help a little bit along the way, but you've done well. And I mean, it's, it's a great story. You worked hard. You've got your first 911. I mean, it's such a unique one. You know what I mean? Meridian Metropole leather. It's got the roof wheels. It's got the wing. It's got the, the tune. Fantastic. David, thanks so much for being on Owner Stories, mate. Really, really appreciate it.
No worries, Michael. Good to talk to you, mate. All good.
Good to talk to you as well. All right, everyone. Thank you, David. And thanks, guys, for listening to PorscheCooled Podcast today. That's David coming in from, let's call it Sydney. Sydney in Australia, New South Wales in Australia, with his 2001 996 Turbo Meridian Nova Metropole, roof wheels, roof wing. It's got a tune. David's a detailer, so, if you need a detailer in Sydney and you're looking for someone to look after your car, I'm sure you can just give him a DM, David, through your Instagram, Roof 996 Turbo, or you have a Facebook page.
Yeah, I've got my Facebook page there, or Instagram, man. Just reach out and you'll find me and we'll sort it out. No worries.
All right. Thanks, David. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. Bye for now.